Hola, Zaid.
Hola.
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 I thought we would meet like this. Great, great.
Hola.
Hola, hola. Great. Okay, guys. So today I'll be talking about the golden age of Spain. Siglo de Oro, as they call it. Siglo means century, de is of, and oro is gold. Okay, so century of gold. So we'll be talking about century of gold in Spain and what happened in this golden century. Why is this called as golden century, and why are we studying this as Spanish students today? Okay, so century of gold is basically a period in which the literature, arts, and general thinking of that particular place, that is in this case Spain, really evolved to some next level. And today, the kind of thinking that we have as a world, actually, we call our times as modern times today. The kind of thinking that we have, the approach that we have, the rationales that we have, how we reason things in general today, the roots of this thinking actually lie in this particular period. This golden period actually had happened in the entire Europe. Today we'll be studying it in Spanish context, but you can very well use Spain as a prototype to understand what must have happened in rest of the Europe. And because today, knowingly or unknowingly, we follow the Western culture, we follow the Western rationale, uh, we can say that as Indians also, we have a lot of influence of what happened in that particular period. So I think generally also it's a very important topic to know where we come from, because it just gives you a very good explanation about that. Okay, so getting into that, what is that particular century of gold? Which period is called the century of gold? Because roughly it corresponds to 100 years. So in case of Spain, it corresponds to 16th and 17th century, part of 16th century and part of 17th century. In case of rest of Europe, it coincides with, it is more than a siglo actually, it is more than a century. Even the 15th century becomes a part of it. In Spain, it arrived a bit late, rather almost a century late, almost 100 years late. And we are going to talk about this period. Some of you, if you are art students, even in architecture, I think I studied it in great detail actually. And people who have been generally interested in this topic might have heard of this word called as Renaissance. Renaissance is a French word and it means rebirth. And in Spanish context, the word that is used, the exact word, the synonym of Renaissance is renacimiento. Renacimiento is birth, re is again, so rebirth. So the Siglo de Oro also coincides with Renaissance period. So we are going to see what all this is about. We'll be talking about 15th century Renaissance. But before that, we'll just go a little bit behind to understand what caused this Renaissance, because it's very, very important, and why this Renaissance becomes important. We have to go a bit behind. Now, until the 15th century, the period in Europe from 5th century till 15th century, it's almost a millennium, 1,000 years. That period is known as the Middle Ages in Europe. And the High Middle Ages would be 10th century or rather 12th century to the 15th century, okay? Now, the root of this Renaissance or the causes of this Renaissance actually lie in these Middle Ages. What are the Middle Ages? See, basically the Roman Empire, actually it collapsed in 5th century AD, and the time after that is called as the Middle Ages. Till the Roman Empire was doing well, Europe was doing real.
Zai, we have lost your voice.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. I'll continue. Okay, so like I was saying, till the Roman Empire was in place, till the 5th century AD, Europe was doing really well in all parts, in all areas, in all fields. But after the Roman Empire collapsed, the society disintegrated a lot. In fact, the period from 5th century to 10th century, 11th century AD, after Christ that is known as the Dark Ages. And why is it called as the Dark Age? Simply because we are in dark. We don't know what happened during that period. There are very little books, very little documents, or even very few buildings that survive from that period to give us an idea of what happened. So you can understand that nothing significant really happened. So that's a long time, half a millennium. Nothing important is happening in this part of the world. And then the rest of the 500 years, what we know about this period, and there is a good documentation about that, pictures survive, books survive. It was a very unequal society. As in, and it's very easy for us as Indians to understand that because it's very similar to what we had or we still have in some parts of our country. You know about the zamindari system in India, right? Where at the top of the system, there is this zamindar who owns the land, and at the bottom are those farmers who till the land, but they are not the owners of the land, and they are more or less at the mercy of these zamindars. So this in the European context, or in English, the word is feudalism. In Spanish, it becomes feudalismo. So there was this feudalism, and at the top of this pyramid, the social pyramid, were the kings and the noblemen. The noblemen were basically the relatives of the king, or these zamindars, or these feudal lords, as they were called. And at the bottom of the pyramid were the slaves and these farmers. So that, and of course, at the top class were the noblemen, the kings, and also the priest class, the pope, the clergymen, the priests, the bishops. These people belong in that top class. So the king, the nobleman, and the priest at the top class, and at the bottom class, the farmers. And it was a scenario of absolute power. The king and the priest, or in this case, we can just call it the church as an institution. These together, the royalty and the church together, they were people with absolute powers, and they ruled these people. And they were, of course, there was a lot of poverty amongst the lower classes. But things started changing towards 13th and 14th century when this new class, that is the merchant class, evolved, and they started having trade beyond Europe. And because of this merchant class, the class that had evolved was the middle class, and these people had started coming towards so the society earlier was necessarily a very rural kind of a society. And this new class, this new money that had come in, these people, they had started migrating towards the cities. And that class was called as the bourgeois. It's again a French word. In Spanish, it can be burguesia. So that bourgeois class, or you can just call it a middle class or a higher middle class, that started coming towards the cities. So this was a new class that had started evolving. Also during this period of time, what had happened is that the church and the king were these absolute powers. And the people had to listen, and the people were illiterate. That was a very, very important thing. Only the church, only the clergymen, in fact, even the kings were illiterate at that time. Only the clergymen, they could read and write, and most of the books, the Bible even, it was all written in Latin. So these people were the absolute authority. Religion was extremely important, and thus they had power. I think it's very it's not too difficult to understand this dynamics, because I think in our country also in the olden times we have seen this kind of dynamics. So this was the situation. So in this kind of a situation, what happens is thinkers and philosophers in most of the parts of the world in previous times, even now, they are known to step up. They are known to step up and have a think about it, like what is really happening. Even on the religious front, people were not really happy because it was a very ritual oriented society. If I were to pray to God, and at the end of the day, if I'm not feeling secure enough, so what is my prayer? Is my prayer good enough? What is the use of the prayer? Why is God helping only the rich and not the poor? So these were very practical, basic questions that were very prevalent in the society at that time. And the thinkers and the philosophers, writers even, they stepped up and they started having a think about it, what is happening. And actually, you can see that in such a time, when in such a time of crisis, not only in Europe, but you can see in other parts of the world also, humans, we are known to look back on the times when so-called good times, like even now, for instance, in the time of this pandemic, a lot of countries are looking at their traditional system of medicine also. So people are resorting to that, you know. So this kind of thing actually happened at that time also. And they tried to see which was the time when Europe was doing well. You know, when were we actually doing well? When were we prosperous? When were we thinking well? When were the people in the society happy? And they realized that that period was actually 1,000 years ago, even before that. And that was known as the classical period. Now, what is this classical period? Classical period actually is the period of the Greeks and period of the Romans. So you can say it is a millennium before this millennium. So you can say 5th century BC till 5th century AD was this sort of classical period of the Greeks and the Romans. Now, why did these philosophers and thinkers, why did they like this period so much? What was the base of this period? What was the main rationale of this period? The main rationale of this period was that you have to reason everything. There has to be reason for everything. Also in this period, God was important, religious institutions were important, but they were not all important. They were not at the top of the pyramid. Human being was at the center of it. Now, what does this mean, human being being at the center of it? The development of a human being. It will be mental development, it will be physical development, and it will also be spiritual development. This was the focus in the classical period. So everything, whatever a human being is capable of doing, that was the focus of these cultures, the classical cultures, Greek and Roman cultures. Seneca, Aristotle, Socrates, these were, you can say, the main philosophers, the main heroes, Plato even. These were the main people who wrote about this attitude, who wrote about this mentality, as in the development of a human being. So it will be in the field of art, so painting, sculpture, in the literature, in the field of spirituality even, like, you know, this inquiry into metaphysics, what is God, why are we here for? So all this inquiry was very much encouraged in that era, which was very much in contrast with the medieval period, where people were asked to listen to what they were told, no asking questions. These feudal lords and the church were these absolute powers, and you just have to listen to that. So these thinkers, they were able to get hold of these old Roman and Greek texts, actually. So that is another story, that because of the fall of the Roman Empire, these texts were lost. And in the next session, we can talk about how these people actually got in touch with those texts again. Anyway, so they were able to get in touch with those texts, and they really liked what they read, you know. It made sense, it was more equal, it was more democratic in a way. And that's why this kind of thinking started taking root. And the epicenter of this thinking was in Italy, especially in Florence. Now, Florence had been it was a bit different to the rest of the European states, as we call it, states or countries, because the countries as we know them now, those were not the boundaries of the countries then, so we can just call them states, because Italy itself was not the Italy that we know right now. Italy was more of a group of small city states, and they had their independent rulers. And what had happened in Florence is this family called as the Medici family. Actually, right now there is a series on the Medicis on Netflix. I have not seen it, but I intend to. So they were the people who were actually the merchant class, and they were really flourishing. And for years, they were like the top sort of ruling class in the city of Florence. And they had a very democratic kind of scenario in Florence, you know, like you work hard, you make money. There was freedom for expression. So this is the place where this Renaissance actually started. This Renascimento actually started. Now, why the word Renaissance? See, Renaissance means rebirth. Now, something is reborn. So what is reborn is this classical ideology, Greek thinking, Roman thinking. It is revived, it is reborn. And that's why this period is called as Renaissance. And generally, Renaissance is seen as a period of transition from darkness to light. It is seen as a period of freedom, and something just stopped happening after that period. This absolute, so of course church has always been powerful and it continued to have its power, but the dynamics basically changed. It had to prove itself, and it had to work with the rest of the society to be in power after that. And of course it differed from country to country, but this change really happened. And So this is the Renaissance period, and things started changing. Philosophers. So Dante is one author, and he's written this trilogy. Actually, one of them is Inferno. So Inferno is generally called as the book that started Renaissance, and it was written as early as the 14th century. So Spain had its Renaissance, started its Renaissance in the 16th century, but Dante's Inferno was written in the 14th century. So it took time by the time it came to Spain. So anyway, so till now, what we have understood is that Renaissance is a period which comes after the Middle Ages. Edad Media, as it is called in Spanish. Edad is age, Media is middle, so Middle Ages, and it is a period of great transition. It is a period where people start looking at the classical times, the Roman and the Greek times, the so-called times when they were flourishing, when they were doing well. So they now want to copy things from there. So they actually started copying things, by the way. They copied so much so that the literature actually had even Greek Roman names. So we'll come back to that later. So now this Renaissance is happening in Florence, and slowly it is spreading to different parts of Italy, and of course it beyond. Now what happens is it comes in. Now why, although Italy and Spain are neighboring countries, why does it arrive in Spain 100 years later? Now that is very, very interesting. Now, Spain has this very interesting scenario going on at that time. Spain, from 7th century, 8th century AD, the southern part of Spain, a lot of northern part also, but by the 15th or the 14th century, only the southern part. So it was ruled by these Moros, as they were called. So Moros is the Spanish word for Moorish people. And who are these Moorish people? People from Morocco. So these are these Moroccans that are so they are actually just beyond the Mediterranean. Spain has these the Mediterranean borders. So on the top is Spain, on the north side of the Mediterranean is Spain, on the southern side of the Mediterranean are some countries, out of which one is Morocco. So these Moroccans had been ruling the southern part of Spain for almost 700 years, 700 to 800 years, 7th century to 15th century. So, and they had ruled a bigger part, a bigger chunk of Spain, but till the 14th century, only the southern part of Spain was left with these people. Now, what was happening in Spain is, so of course, these Moros were Islamic rulers, but the society that they had, the society that they had formed, these rulers they had formed, was a free society. Jews and Muslims and Christians, all of these people, they lived together, and it was a very homogeneous kind of a society. Now, what has happened? If you look at the map of Spain,
we lost your voice again, Zai. Zai, you are not audible.
Should I rejoin? Should I rejoin?
No, you have, now we can hear you.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So, so where were we? Okay, so Aragon is a region in the eastern part of Spain. Castile is a region in the central part of Spain. So now what happens is there is this queen called as Queen Isabella, who is actually 18 years old at the time in 1468. So we are talking about 15th century now. In 1468, she is 18 years old. King Ferdinand is 17 years of age, and they both get married. And together they are called as the Reyes Católicos. Rey is the word for king. The word king or monarch means rey, and Reyes is the plural for it. So R-E-Y, Rey, and R-E-Y-E-S, Reyes. Okay. So together these guys are called as Reyes Católicos, or the Christian or the Catholic monarchs. Now these people are actually responsible for bringing Spain together, unifying the entire Spanish country, or setting its boundaries the way we know Spain today. These guys are responsible for doing that, and they were very ambitious.
We lost, yeah, your voice is going on and off.
Okay.
Now it's better.
Now it's better. Okay, so I think I should be holding my device close. Okay. So these two people, they are very ambitious, both of them, and they work very well together. And between them, they decide to conquer the entire of the Spanish country under the under this main head that we are going to unify under this big Christian rule. Now, what is happening in the southern part of Spain? There is this Muslim rule, and there are around 10 years of war. So the capital of these Moorish people, these Moros, is Granada. If you look at the map of Spain, it is in the southern part of Spain in Andalusia. So Granada is their capital. And in 1492, these people actually conquer Granada as well. And so this event is called as Reconquista or Reconquest, you can say. So basically conquering the lost land. So basically Christians reconquering the land. So this is called as Reconquista. Now, what has happened in this period is, because these Moros, because these Moorish people have lived in Spain for such a long time, 700 years, that's a very big time. Of course, the society has this different groups. You know, you have Muslims, you have Jews, and you have Christians. And these people were liberal rulers. They were very much okay with this kind of multifaceted society. But what these people realized, the Reyes Católicos realized, is that now there can be a lot of rebellion, and there were a lot of rebellions against them. And so they realized that if we were to convert these people in Christianity, we will get their loyalty. So there were a lot many forced conversions in Spain at that time. And also, some of these people were given warnings, like 4 months, 3 months warning. So if you don't convert to Christianity, you will be expulsed, you will be removed from Spain. So almost 1.5 lakh people were actually removed from Spain. Both Jews and Muslims, they were just expelled from Spain. And even people who were converted, actually, even they didn't have the same social standing as the Christians. So there was this term that was used at that time. It was called as sangre limpia. So sangre means blood, and limpia means clean. So these people were no de sangre limpia. So not of clean blood, or not of pure blood. So although they were Christians, they were discriminated against. So it was not a very socially, it was not a very good kind of a scenario for these people, and in general for the society, because there was a lot of discrimination. And 1.5 lakhs people now are expelled from Spain. So you can imagine now 1.5 lakhs might not mean like a very big figure, especially for Indians today, but it's a very big figure if you think of Europe, if you think of Spain, and especially in those times, especially 500 years ago, that was a big period, and that was a big figure, and it becomes an extremely important figure. Why? I'll tell you now. So now what has happened is, in the Spanish society at that time, the original Christian people belonged to the two classes. So the first class was the nobleman class, the top class, the noble class, the clergyman, and the king. These people belonged to the top class. Okay, and these people were Christians. And then the bottommost class was the class of the farmers who tilled the land, but they were not owners of the land. There were a lot of slavery. Slavery was rampant in Europe at that time. And then, of course, there were the class of petty thieves, and there were these, magicians and pimps and prostitutes and such people. They belonged to that really bottom class. And these people were Christians. The middle class, the class that was of the white-collar jobs, like judges, lawyers, teachers, professors, scientists even, this class was actually, this kind of profession was practiced by the Jews. And all the artistic class, the artisans, it could be anything. It could be right from architecture to jewelry making to furniture making. This kind of profession, the Muslims had this profession. So suddenly Spain suffers from a lack of this entire middle class. There is no middle class in Spain. The class that actually gives a cultural identity to a country, that the class that actually establishes an order. Now suddenly this class is altogether missing in Spain. So we have either the top class, and we know that the top class was really corrupt at that time. It was the farmers who were working, and these people sort of taking the money, you can say. And then the farmers and these poor people, there's really poor people, the thieves, this illiterate class at the bottom of it. So suddenly Spain goes through this sort of unforeseen kind of a economic crisis over here. And then this is another very important event that has happened is this Inquisition. Now, Inquisition is an institution. Inquisition, or in Spanish, it is called as Inquisición. So it's actually the spelling is very similar. At the end, it's just C-I-O-N. So it's called as Inquisición. Now, what is Inquisición? Inquisición is rampant in different parts of Europe, actually. So Inquisición is an institution, and it is the head of the Inquisición, or a person who can start or allow Inquisition in a particular state or in a particular country is the Pope, actually. The Pope is allowed to do that. And what does it really mean? What was the original function of the Inquisition is to stop disloyalty against the Christians, especially people who were converts. So there was this rumor, or in some cases it was even true, that these people, they have converted to Christianity, but secretly they practice their own religion because ultimately they were forced. And this was throughout Europe, actually. So the Pope had made this institution, which was called as the Inquisition, and the Inquisition was basically to take notice of such people. And it was a very rigorous, very hard kind of a body, very hard kind of an institution. And these people who were caught by this Inquisition, there was a very strict punishment for that. And many a time this punishment was even death, actually. But slowly this Inquisition started becoming like a shield for the top class, actually. So if you say anything against the top class, either any kind of injustice, if you were to raise your voice against any kind of injustice, the Inquisition was put in place against that particular person. So Inquisition was no longer a body only for protection of religion, as they used to call it. It generally became like a shield for the top class to do whatever they want. Now, what happens because of this Inquisition is, now when this Renaissance has actually started, what this Renaissance does is that one of the, you can say...
Zai, how much time would you need more?
Maybe 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. So what happens because of this Inquisition is that it permits people from free thinking. It generally permits, it doesn't permit people to think freely. It doesn't permit people to, so basically it is, you have to work in favor of these people. Okay. So what was happening in Italy, free thinking, expressing your development for everyone, development for all classes and all castes in the society, that doesn't happen in Spain because of this Inquisition. And because of this Inquisition, because of this special kind of a scenario where a lot of people are expelled from the country, Spain develops this very peculiar character to its Renaissance. First of all, it arrives really late. And then when it does arrive, its expression in terms of painting, in terms of art, in terms of literature is slightly unique compared to the rest of the thing. So that expression, finally, what happens? What are those people saying? How are they painting? What are they talking through the literature? We'll see in the next session. So for now, we are going to stop. But that is the general, so quickly we'll summarize that the Middle Ages, which were more or less an oppressive period, which was more or less a period of darkness in thinking, now is going to be transformed, and new mentality, new mindset, the mindset that is the root of the modern thinking that we have today, is going to be born. Spain goes through these unique scenarios because of its unique socio-political scenario. And one more thing that I missed is science was also having some really good time. There was one really very important invention that happened in 1440, and that was the invention of the printing press. So in the next session, we are going to see how this invention was extremely useful for the propagation of Renaissance. So I think, yes, I think I'm going to stop here today.
Okay. Thank you, Zai.
Thanks a lot, Zai. It was quite very interesting. And the kind of things that happened in that golden period are really depressing. I would like to add something. For example, the extent of religiously fanatic people reached such an extent
Yes.
that whenever Jews used to go to those tapas, as Prasad showed us, the tapas, he showed us the pictures. Whenever they used to go to the tapas, they used to be served food which was not kosher food. And
Yes.
when they were hesitant to eat that food, they were spotted, and then they used to face inquisition. That was really
Yes.
cruel.
Yes.
And as you said rightly, all the merchant class along with the Jews, when they left Spain, there was a void in the middle class which was very difficult to fill up, and
Yes.
Spain paid that it was a very costly affair for Spain because
Yes.
unlike England, they couldn't invest in industrial revolution, although they got a lot of money through South America from 1492 onward. It was
Yes.
the tragedy of stupid people, I would say, but
Yes.
it was stupid, very very stupid decisions which sacrificed meritocracy, and as a result of that, they had to pay a very heavy price for that.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, you summed up really well. Thanks a
Okay.
lot. Right.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Zai.
Thank you.
Now over to you, Prasad.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Zai. So I would like to start with share screen as usual. So Prasad, could you please hand over the share screen?
You are already co-host.
Okay, okay, thanks a lot. So we'll start where we left. Today we'll start with I think on Sunday we started with AR verbs. Now today we'll go for ER verbs, but before that I would like to brush up what we did earlier. Nosotros hablar. Could you please complete the sentence as per the grammar of the verb? Nosotros. I want you to complete a few slides so that we can move ahead. And along with that, I want to stress a few points about impersonal expressions. So first of all, we'll go for this first slide. Nosotros means we. Now these are the things which I was trying to avoid, but for the sake of such exercises, like for example, when they give you an exercise like this, where they specify the word for we, and according to which we have to put the verb, uh, then you need to know these words for I, you, we, he, she, they, you, all those words. So I have specified here the words yo, tú, él, ella, nosotros, vosotros, ellos,
Hablamos.
yeah, hablamos, all those things. So, Prasad, as usual, we'll start with Abhishek Kurlekar if he's there. If
No,
not,
he's not there.
okay, we'll start with Aditya Biju. Aditya,
Okay.
yeah, could you please complete the fill in the blanks part?
Nosotros hablaré.
Remove the AR part, remove
Okay.
the identity, remove
Okay.
the identity, yeah, and add this ending. Since it's nosotros, it's
Uh-huh.
we will stick to first person plural. Okay, so this form,
Okay. Habla el español en las clase.
no. Hablamos el español en la clase. Hablamos. See the word.
Hablamos.
Yeah, see the word here.
Okay.
It's not this black part hasn't been truncated. It is there as a part of the ending. So it is very much there.
Okay.
Hablamos el español en la clase. Okay.
Okay.
I have just stressed the endings. Okay. O, as, a, amos, ais, an. So that for question answer session, it's useful for you. So, hablamos el español en la clase. Is that clear?
Okay. Yes. Should I say it again once more?
Please say, and don't use the word nosotros. It is just for giving an hint which subject is there.
Okay. Hablamos el español en las clase.
Las clase, where do we find that las clase? It's
En
la.
Sorry, en la clase.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thanks. Okay. Next one. Okay. Now
Ajay Patil.
yeah. No. Un momentito, Prasad. I will be moving over to
Okay,
ER
okay.
verbs. ER verbs. Those are very anyway. Statistically speaking, 70% of those are AR verbs, and then the rest of the 30% verbs are ER and IR verbs. Okay. So comer is the first model verb I have chosen as a prototype for rest of the ER verbs. So comer, just as I told you, the basic thing is same one. Remove the identification tag. The identification tag of an ER verb is of course ER. remove that, add O-S-A, amos, is N. To help you out, I have given you the meaning in English. I eat, comer means to eat. I eat, you eat, he, she eats. We eat, you all eat, they eat. Okay. So, como, comes, come, comemos, comeis, comen. ¿Podrían, por favor, repetir? Could you please repeat? Could you please all repeat?
Yeah.
Como, comes, come.
Como, comes,
Come.
come,
Comes.
comemos,
Como,
coméis,
comes,
comen.
comemos, coméis, comen.
Una vez más. Como, comes, comes.
Como, comes, come.
Comemos,
Comes.
Coméis,
Comemos,
coméis,
comen.
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 Okay, since it's ER verb, instead of AS means as, O, as, A, amos, ais, an, you will find OSA, amos, is, n. That's the only difference. And since it is very difficult to pick up the verb endings and attach them properly, I have given you help wherever I need it is necessary. So we'll move to the next slide. Okay. Can you form this? Can you fill in the blank? Aditya, उसके बाद who is the next one?
Ajay.
Ajay. Nosotras is the expected subject. Nosotros, nosotras means we, and the verb form is comer to be used, and comer has to be modified as per nosotros or nosotras. That is first person plural. How will you form that?
Comes.
Now remove the ER part. Remove the ER part first. Okay, and add, now since nosotras is first person plural, you have to add the first person plural of comer. Now where do you see it? O-S-A, these are all singular ones. First person singular is O.
Comemos.
Yeah. Second person singular is S. Third person singular is E. Then first person plural is emos. Second person plural is eis. And third person plural is N. So comemos.
Comemos.
El
Pan.
El pan.
El pan. Con esto.
Con queso. Q plus U is
Con queso.
Huh?
Por el mañana.
Por la mañana. Por la mañana.
Por la mañana.
Yeah, por la mañana in the morning. Nosotros, nosotras, we. Pan significa bread. Con significa with. Queso significa cheese. Okay. Next one. Okay. Porlo, whose turn is that? De quién es el turno? Next one.
Jitendra.
Jitendra. Okay.
See, sir.
Now I have clubbed together ER and AR verbs together. So in general, the meaning is like this. In general, I drink only mineral water when I travel to other cities. Okay, this is the meaning of this sentence. Por lo general, in general. Now beber means to drink. Beber means to drink. It comes with yo. Who is doing the action of drinking? Yo. Yo significa I. I drink only agua mineral, means mineral water, when I travel to other cities. Okay. So accordingly, you have to make a change in the verb form. As per
Okay.
Yo and okay. Please.
Yes, see. Por lo general, yo bebo.
G plus E is K. G plus
Sorry. Por lo general, yo. General, yo bebo. Right?
Yeah.
Bebo solamente el agua mineral cuando viajo.
Read it properly.
Viajo. Viajo a otras ciudades.
Muy bien. Okay. Please don't say the word yo. Por lo general, bebo solamente el agua mineral cuando viajo a otras ciudades. Una vez más, I'll repeat. Por lo general, I won't use the word yo. Por lo general, bebo solamente el agua mineral cuando viajo a otras ciudades. Okay?
Yeah, sí.
Okay. I have purposely given you the conjugation of AR and ER here. That will help you out. Okay. Next one. Okay, before you go for the sentence, I would like you to read the commentary below that. In Spanish, we have already learned impersonal expressions. For example, it is possible, it is impossible, it is important, it is urgent, it is easy, it is difficult, all that kind of thing. So after that, that is called an impersonal expression. Always put verb in root form. Okay, after impersonal expressions, always put verb in root form. You don't change that like in English. Okay, like you say in English, is it permissible to smoke? Now, to smoke is a verb in root form. You don't change that. Okay. Similarly, in Spanish, es permisible fumar. Now, what is the alternative for root form? How do I express a verb in root form in Spanish? By putting the verb form in its AR, ER, or IR format. So, es permisible fumar. Fumar takes care of to and smoke, both the things. So, es permisible fumar. Is it permissible to smoke? So that is how we do it. And the another thing I have added is just choose yes or no and put the whole question as it is after it. Okay. So you have to answer, is it permissible? Yes or no? Yes. See or no? See, as permissible, for example, here sakar means to take photos. Take photos of this sketch. Sakar means to take photo. Sakar means to withdraw, to take. Sacar las fotos de este retrato. You just have to say the sentence as it is. Sacar means to take a snap to take a photo. Okay. So you have to put sacar as it is. You don't have to modify or don't have to use a conjugated verb form of sacar. Just put it as it is. Es permisible sacar las fotos de este retrato. You have to answer it now. Whose turn is that? Senora Manju is not there, so I think Ninad will be there.
Yes, sir.
So I have the last sentence, the last comment is that don't forget to change the tone when you answer. Okay, so just put sí or no and the question as it is, like that, and don't say it in a question tone. Say it as if in a flat tone, as if it's a statement. How would you say?
Es permisible sacar sacar las fotos de este retrato.
Retrato, sketch. Es permisible, sí, you can say sí, es
Sí.
permisible sacar las fotos de este retrato, this sketch. Okay. Next one. Okay. Now, next one after Vinod, perhaps
Prachi.
Prachi. So similarly, next sentence is also impersonal expression. Es fácil. Is it or it is easy? Okay. Is it easy to speak in front of 50 members? Okay. Is it easy to speak in front of 50 members? Same construction after impersonal expression, put the verb in root form. Hablar, you don't conjugate hablar. You don't use any conjugated verb forms of hablar. Just put it in its root form, that is AR, ER, and IR. And while answering it, just say sí or no and put the whole thing as it is. Just change the tone of the question into a flat tone. That's all.
Sí es fácil hablar en frente de 50 miembros.
Sí, es fácil hablar en frente de 50 miembros. 50?
Yeah, 50, right.
Okay. Next one. Okay.
Prajakta.
Yeah, it's AR verb, but I want to mix up the verbs. ¿A qué hora llega el autobús número 25? So, who is performing the action of arriving? El autobús. So that is the subject. Now anything apart from I, we, and you is third person. So el autobús will be third person singular. Third person singular takes the third person singular form of llega. O, as, a, amos, ais, an. Accordingly, you have to choose.
Prajakta.
Yes, sir. third person singular.
Yeah.
¿A qué hora llega el autobús número 25? 25.
25. Okay, 25. Next one. ¿A qué hora llega el autobús número 25? You have to answer it now.
Yeah, Pramod.
You can read the comment here. Verb form ending in a, rather a, in a question remains same in answer. For AR verbs in simple present tense, if a verb form ends in a, that is third person singular or third person plural also, it remains same in answer. You just have to specify the answer. These are the three options given. You can choose any of those options.
Yeah. A Q hora lega.
No. You have to answer at what time the autobus, the
come.
bus number 25 arrived.
Mm-hmm.
Answer. The bus arrives at such and such time. I have given three options: a las cuatro menos cuarto, a las 9:10, and a las 6:30.
So should I start with
Yeah.
Elas? Okay.
Yeah.
Elas 9:10. El autobus lega el autobus número 25. 25 es 25.
25. Muy bien. You can be very flexible with Spanish constructions. You can say a las 9:10 llega el autobús número 25. Muy bien.
Yeah. Gracias.
Okay. Now this is ER verb.
Pratiksha.
Yeah, you can read the meanings of the words below. El domingo means on Sunday. There is no word for on, especially when you want to say on Sunday, on Monday, on Tuesday. Just say el domingo. Words are masculine. And then yo is there means I, correr means to run, con means with, me, my, perro, dog. Okay. Okay, un momento. Sorry.
Pratiksha.
Yes. Should I read?
Yeah.
El domingo corro 4 kilómetros con mi perro.
Muy bien.
Perfect.
Now again, one ER verb, leer. Don't worry about double E. As I said earlier, one of the students had raised the question, if same two vowels come together, what do we do? You give justice to both the vowels, say each and every vowel distinctly and separately. Okay. This is the time to test that knowledge. Okay. Next one.
Would I say, sir?
Yeah.
¿Qué periódico leo cada día?
Leo means what?
To read.
No. Leer means to read. Leer means to read. Okay. Now, how do I say I read? I say leo. Okay. If I want to say you read, I say lees. If I want to say he, she reads, I say lee. Then if I want to say we read, I say leemos. If I want to say you all read, leeis. And if I want to say they read, I say leen. Okay. Now two means you. Okay. Which newspaper do you read every day? So you will say, okay. You have to put, first of all, put the appropriate verb form corresponding to two. You don't have to answer it. Okay. First of all, form a question. Yeah. Continúa, por favor. Make a question. Make a valid question first, then answer.
So can you please
you have to make a question
understand?
here. You have to make a question here in a valid format. You have to ask which newspaper do you read every day. You are going to ask. You are not going to answer it. Okay. First of all, form a valid question with the help of to and layer. To is the subject and layer is the original verb in its root form. periódico lees cada día? Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Which newspaper do you read every day? Forget do. Okay. Which newspaper you read every day? Okay. Lees. Okay. Next one. Okay. Now you can answer. Now you may try it. You may try it.
Leo.
Yeah. Leo el país cada día. Leo el país cada día. Okay. Is this clear to you? Or you are not getting it? Feel free.
Sí, sí.
No. Let others also say something. Are you, amigos, are you getting it or is it difficult?
Claro, claro.
Claro.
Sí, sí.
Claro.
Leo el país cada día. El país is name of a newspaper in Spain. So yo means I. I read El País every day. Leo. Okay. Okay. Then back to AR verbs. O, as, a, amos, ais, an.
Sanjana.
Elia means she. She always
Yes.
reads. She always buys T-shirts of the brand Prada. Siempre means always. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Sanjana.
So it's Elia siempre compra las camisetas de la marca Prada.
Muy bien, muy bien.
Muy bien. Perfect.
Okay, another verb ending in er, creer, just like comer.
Seshadri.
Okay, Senor Sheshadri, could you please conjugate the verb first of all, creer? I know you can. Creer. Could you please first of all conjugate the verb creer? Remove this er part and add these endings.
N.
No. Creer. Remove this ar part and add these endings column wise.
First conjugate and then answer.
Okay. Creo. Es cree. Creemos.
Creemos.
Creemos. Creáis. Creen.
Creéis.
Creéis.
Creen.
Creen.
Yeah, that double shouldn't pose problem actually. You take your own time, split it, take a pause in between. Creo, crees, cree, creemos, creéis, creen. Okay. Now la gente is a third person singular. La significa it's singular. La gente, the people. Okay.
Cree.
Cree en los fantasmas. En partes rurales de India, la gente cree en los fantasmas.
En partes rurales de India, la gente cree en los fantasmas.
Perfecto. Fantasma significa ghost, ends in ma, so it's masculine. So, el fantasma, los fantasmas. Okay. Now, I'm asking you one more question with the same word. Crees en los fantasmas. Whose turn is that?
Sonali.
Yeah, just like Ais becomes Amos, here Ais becomes Amos. That's the only thing.
Amos.
Yeah. So how do you answer? You can negate it. Do you all believe in ghosts? You can say yes or no. If you want to negate it 2 times. First say no, and then again put no before the appropriate verb form.
No creemos.
No, comma.
No
creemos en los fantasmas.
Okay. No creemos en los fantasmas.
Yeah, just like in English. No, I don't believe in ghosts. Okay. First you say no and then say don't. Okay. Muy bien. Siguiente. Aprender significa to learn. Can someone please conjugate the next one? Next participant, can you please conjugate aprender?
Vikram.
Yeah, please conjugate first of all aprender.
Aprendes, aprendo, aprendes, aprende, aprendemos, aprendéis, aprenden.
Yeah, it means, do you all learn Spanish? Okay. Is in question because, yeah, you can answer it.
All right. Okay. Sí,
Yes or no?
aprendemos español.
Muy bien. Sí, aprendemos español.
Aprendemos español.
Yeah, aprendemos. Huh? Now, sometimes you have to understand the question format. Now the question says como means how, español means Spanish. How to learn Spanish? Now, it's impersonal. Rather, there is no subject aspect of this particular question. यहाँ कौन काम कर रहा है कुछ दिया नहीं है. So, how to learn Spanish is a generic question posed. How to learn Spanish? So just como aprender español. It will be like that only. Am I right? How do you ask that in English? How to learn Spanish? You put to learn in root form in English. Just like that, you put that in Spanish also. Como aprender español. That's the answer. Don't change anything. Okay. In the blanks, it will be aprender only. Como aprender español. How to learn Spanish. Okay. I'll move to the next one. Now, one more verb I want to stress, which is very useful verb. Many times when you go out, you have to state your obligations. Also, you have to sometimes emphatically stress the obligations on other people also. For example, in a service-oriented industry or similar kind of situation, you have to stress what is the obligation of the person opposite you. So deber in that respect is a very useful verb. The beauty of this verb is that you have to put verb after that in root form. So if you do the conjugation of deber perfectly well, after that, even if you know the verb in root form, you can put it as it is. I'll tell you how to explore its applications later on. But remember, deber means must in English. In English, the verb forms of must remain same for all persons in simple present tense. For example, say I must, we must. That is true about all verbs. But see this, she must and he must. You don't say she musts and he musts. You don't say like that. Okay. So the verb form of must in simple present tense doesn't change in English. But in Spanish, you conjugate it. Means you have to conjugate the verb must in Spanish, unlike English. But like in English, the similarity is that a verb after that comes in root form. We'll see how it comes in root form later on. So I have given you the conjugation of deber here. Remove the er, the identification tag of it. Add osa, emos, as, n. So debo, debes, debe, debemos, debeis, deben. Okay. For example, I must comply with the obligations. I must learn this thing within a week. I must fly to Barcelona next week. Like that. Yeah. Okay, we'll see the next part. Okay. I think Vilas is there. Am I right?
Yeah. Vilas.
Yeah. Now see this carefully.
Yeah.
I'll first of all explain. Elia means she. Elia means she. Yo means I.
Yeah.
Tomar means to take. Las pastillas. Pastillas means tablets. De presión alta de sangre means presión means pressure high of blood, of high blood pressure, regularmente. Okay. Now
Yeah.
all this blah 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 doesn't play any part in verb conjugation first, but understand one thing. It means she and I together make it we. I have given it here. Elia, Eo, she and I. She and I means third person singular plus first person singular. That is equal to first person plural, as we have learned. First person
Yeah.
plural is we. So we must take the tablets of high BP regularly. Now,
Yeah.
Tomar here you don't have to conjugate. Just like in English, we must take. Okay. Just
Yeah.
like we say, he must take. You don't say he must takes. Okay. Similarly, you don't conjugate Tomar.
Yeah. Okay, I do it.
Okay.
Right? The screen is gone.
Yeah.
Elia y yo
Huh?
debemos tomar las pastillas de presión alta de sangre regularmente.
Regularmente. Muy bien. Muy bien.
Perfect.
Okay. Next one. Vosotros, vosotras means you all. Okay. You
Visual.
all is feminine. Yeah. You just have to conjugate the verb form of deber as per vosotros or vosotras. Vosotros means you all, means second person plural. You have to conjugate deber as per second person plural. For conjugating, remove the er part and add the particular ending for second person plural.
Okay.
And don't change the verb which comes after that. Cambiar. Don't change that. Okay. Do it.
Okay. Vosotro.
Vosotras.
Sorry, vosotras. I have to say deber also, right? Deber also, right?
Deber you have to conjugate.
Okay, I have to conjugate it.
Yeah.
Debero, cambiar.
Un momentito. Deber, first remove the er part. What remains? Deb.
Deb.
Okay. Okay. After that, add. Now you have to add as per the subject. Subject is which subject? You all.
You all.
Second person plural.
So
this
second.
is line for first person. This is the line for second person. This is the line for third person. This is the line for second person singular, second person plural. So to them you have to add eis. Okay, second person plural. Yeah.
Okay. Vosotras debéis cambiar la contraseña
frequently. Okay, you all have to change the ladies or girls. You have to change the password frequently. This is all they want to say. Okay, medium. Okay, again I'm testing the same knowledge. Now the verb is comprender. Comprender means to understand. This is a regular ER verb. Can someone, the next participant, please conjugate it before we move for the
Ajay.
Comprender. Could you please conjugate, Ajay? Could you please conjugate comprender? First remove this ER part. What remains is comprend. That part remains. Now you attach these endings O, S, A, emos, ACE, N, column wise. Okay.
Ajay.
Okay. Hello.
Hello, Ajay. Are you there?
Okay. I think Ashok is there after Ajay.
Yeah, but Ajay is there.
Okay.
Ajay. Okay. Ashok. Conjugate.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, conjugate comprender. Remove this ER part and to that remaining part comprend. Okay. Comprend.
Yes.
Add these endings. First of all, conjugate.
Comprendo. Comprendéis.
Comprendes.
Comprendéis.
Remove the ER part first. What remains is comprend. Okay. And
Yeah.
in that comprend, add that OSA. Comprendo. Comprendes.
Yes.
Comprende.
Yes. Comprendimos.
Comprendemos is pronounced as A. Comprendemos.
Yeah.
Comprendéis.
Comprendéis.
Comprenden.
Comprenden.
Comprenden. Yeah, this ER has been removed.
Yes.
ER has been removed and then these endings are added. Okay.
Okay.
So now back to the question. Yo y mi colega. Yo means I. Me means my. I and my colleague. Okay. I and my colleague is which person? Third person. Anything apart from I, we, and you is third person. Okay. My colleague is third person. Only one single colleague is involved, so it is third person singular. So
Okay.
First person singular plus third person singular becomes first person plural. Okay. So first person plural is we. So you have to conjugate comprender as per we. That is first person plural.
Comprendemos.
Yeah, comprendemos. Okay. Read the whole sentence.
Yo y mi colega no comprendemos comprendemos
हाँ,
este mecanismo
mecanismo. Okay. Okay. Now we come to the next verb, that is vender. Vender means to sell. Here you see the verb vender. Vender means to sell, and it is regular ER verb. First of all, I would like to ask the participant to first of all conjugate the verb vender. Can you please conjugate vender just like comer? Remove the ER part, add these endings OSAMOS, AIS, N. Okay.
Jitendra.
Yeah.
See, sir.
Remove the
Should I
ER
read?
first.
Okay. Yes, sir. So it's vendo, vendes, vende,
Perfecto.
vendemos, vendes, venden.
Muy bien. Now, a menudo means often. Los traficantes de drogas. Traficantes. El traficante de drogas means drug peddler. El traficante एक ही ड्रग पेडलर है, उसका प्लूरल लोस होगा. एल का प्लूरल लोस होगा. ट्राफिकांते एंड्स इन वॉवेल, उसका प्लूरल उसके लिए एस लगेगा. सो एल ट्राफिकांते de drogas का प्लूरल los traficantes de drogas होगा. So the often the drug peddlers sell the cocaine to the actors. Okay, la coca a los actores. Now the drug peddlers, which person is that, Jitendra? The drug peddlers. Anything apart from I, we, and you is third person. Okay. Now here more than one person is involved, as is involved in any syndicate. Okay. So third person plural. So which person is that? First of all, decide. The drug peddler is which person? First, second, or third?
So the drug person is third. It's third. Yeah, singular. Third person.
Third person,
Yeah,
singular or plural?
It's third person singular, correct?
No. Los traficantes, peddlers. It's plural.
Okay. Traficantes. Okay. Okay. They are drug. Okay. Drug suppliers. Correct.
Suppliers. Okay.
Okay. Okay. It's third person plural, right?
Yeah. Now they are the ones who are doing the action of selling. So they are the subjects. So since the subject is in third person plural, the verb will also be in the third person plural form. Now this is first person, second person, and third person. This column is of plural. This column is of singulars. So
Yeah. When. Okay. Got it. Sir. So a menudo los. Yeah. A menudo los traficantes de drogas venden la coca a los actores.
A los actores.
Yeah.
Perfecto. Muy bien. Okay. Now I think Prasad is the one who can. Now so far we covered sentences in AR and ER. Okay. Now I want you to go a little bit further and form a couple of a group of sentences which are relevant to your activities, especially for Prasad. I want him to do this particular exercise. It's easy one. Dígame las actividades en TMC, TMSC. He's just going to say we. I don't know much about it, Prasad. Excuse me if I can't, if I haven't formulated it correctly. But you can just say we chat, we discuss. Now discuss means cambiar de opiniones. Then we sing poems, we tell stories. You can also say jokes. The word for jokes is chistes. You can say tomar café. Then cenar en un buen restaurante. You just have, these are all AR verbs.
By the way, don't do all these things. We just speak. Okay.
Okay, but you can say it. I want you to say
okay.
5, 6 sentences.
Okay, nosotros charlamos en el club de Toastmasters.
Muy bien. Toastmasters. Yeah, you can say Toastmasters, then they understand it. Entonces, then you can add these particular...
a menudo nosotros cambiamos de opiniones. And a menudo nosotros contamos cuentos. A menudo nosotros... A veces nosotros... en efecto, cada semana nosotros tomamos café o té.
Muy bien.
Después de Toastmasters, a menudo nosotros cenamos en un buen restaurante.
Yeah. Siempre. O a veces. Sometimes or always. Okay, you can select. Muy bien. So these are activities which are relevant to what you did, what is your field of operation. So those are relevant to that. Simple sentences. You can form simple sentences, club them together, and make a meaningful paragraph about what you do. It's not very difficult. I can always help you out. Okay. So that was about AR verbs, simple AR verbs, clubbing them together and forming a meaningful paragraph. Okay. Okay. So that was about AR and ER verbs. So I want to know, have you understood ER verbs? Have you all understood ER verbs, or you find it difficult?
Sí, claro.
Just like I'm coming back to the first. Yeah, this is for hablar. Okay. Now, in the earlier supplement, or rather in the earlier file, I asked you questions. Okay. You have to change I's to amos, as to o, आ का आ ही रहेगा, आन का आन ही रहेगा. यहाँ मैंने सवाल कुछ नहीं पूछा. यहाँ खाली मैंने I want you to form simple sentences. We speak Spanish in the class. Okay. So verb form corresponding to we, that you have to fit in that particular blank. Okay. That's all I want. So similarly here for Comer, you have to do it. This is the exercise for me for that. A few questions were also asked. Yeah, and about impersonal expressions also, I want you to be precise in forming sentence. It's very easy and it's very important and helpful also. So that was all about AR verbs and ER verbs. Next time we'll cover IR verbs. But before that, I would like to go for one important topic that is called estar. I told you there is one verb for to be in Spanish that is called as ser, and another verb called estar. Now, this is a feature common in
Prasad,
all. Yes.
Before that, okay, you can cover estar and ser now, but at the end of the day, please give them some homework to understand IR verbs better, because we spent a lot of time on ER verbs, AR verbs, hablar, and we spent almost 2 full sessions on that. While we will not be able to spend too much time on IR verbs or ER verbs. Give them some homework so that they at least spend some time that way.
Yeah, I'll club together the exercise for ER and IR verbs together.
Maybe so ER first and maybe on Sunday IR, so they don't get confused with that.
There are not many ER and IR verbs, so it's not very difficult. I'll club them together. I'll mix them together, and I shall also provide the necessary hints. Okay. So coming back to estar, the verb to be, that is a feature common in all foreign languages. They have 2 to be verbs in European languages. For example, French, Portuguese, Romansh, and Italian also. That feature is there. Now, estar has a specific field of use and ser has a specific field of use. We'll see that how estar differs from ser. Now, before that, do you remember the conjugation of ser? Can someone tell me conjugation of ser? Can someone tell? And why? In which areas ser is used? What is the use of ser? Areas of application of ser. Can someone tell me? Anyone?
Sir, can I?
Ser means to be.
Yeah, ser means to be. Estar also means to be. English translation will be same.
Yeah, who had shouted, can I just now?
Sir, Sanjana.
Okay, sorry, shoot.
Okay, so the conjugations for ser will be soy, eres, es, somos, sois, and son.
Yeah.
One thing I want to ask you, is it in sync, is it in accordance with the comer verb we learned today?
No.
It is definitely not. So it is called an irregular verb. Okay, so you have to mug it up, frankly speaking. Soy, eres, es, somos, sois, son. But you come across that verb so often that you need not mug it up. We will practice it, you can master it. Now tell me the areas of application of ser. When do you use ser? When do you use ser? To express what?
Feeling or
feelings.
feeling or some kind of a.
No, ser. I'm saying ser. You are
Yeah.
saying exactly opposite. Ser is used for what? First, I mean, I gave you, I showed you some famous Hispanic people, and I asked you to describe them. Every time you use the verb s, so s was used to describe people. Okay, that means people means their inherent characteristics. Just like people have inherent characteristics, even products, objects, inanimate things have inherent features. For example, in case of products, the features provided by the manufacturer or designer, those are the inherent characteristics of the particular object. For example, if you take the case of a table, if it's round in shape, that is a manufacturing detail. Okay, that feature has been provided by that manufacturer. So it's an inherent characteristic of that particular table. A table may be round, a table may be square, a table may be elliptical in shape. Okay, a table may be made up of shisham wood or rosewood. It may be made up of plywood. So those are features provided by the manufacturer, and those are inherent characteristics of the particular product, and those always are expressed with ser. Okay, that's why I said, now just now I told you the example of a particular table made up of rosewood or made up of plywood. So material of which something is made, that comes under area of application of ser. Am I right? So
God given, cannot be
yeah,
changed.
yeah, just like a manufacturer is the creator of a product, God is the creator of human beings. Similarly, you can think along those lines. So essentially, first of all, ser is used to describe, uh, describe the inherent characteristics of people or products. Then comes other area, that is nationality. Then comes identity. Apart from that, material of which something is made, relationships, then impersonal expressions, then political affiliation. Forget that. Possession also comes under ser. Then time expressions. Everywhere we use es la una, son las dos. So es and son are verb forms of ser. So for expressing time expressions, you use ser. Similarly, for relationships, you use ser only. Uh, this is in general the scenario about ser. So remember these areas of application of ser. On the backdrop of that, do you remember when I asked you, ¿Cómo estás? That estás is not that está, not that kind of thing. It is a verb. ¿Cómo estás? Comes from the verb estar. Okay, its conjugation is estoy, estás, está. We'll see that. But it asks you, how do you do? How do you do का सवाल पूछने का मतलब क्या होता है? Why do they ask such a question? Do they want to, for example, the question is posed in a face-to-face conversation. When I can see the person in front of me, what is the point in asking, तुम काले हो या गोरे हो, तुम लंबे हो या अल्तो हो या बाको हो या गोर्दो यानी कि फैट हो या डेलगाडो हो? I can see that person in front of me. So what is the what is the purpose of asking? How do you do? It is to ask him his physical status or his physical state. आपको कैसा लग रहा है, आप कैसे हो, यानी कि it is his temporary status which I am asking. आप कैसे हो? मुझे ये पता है कि वो आदमी कैसा है, लेकिन कैसे हो इसका मतलब क्या होता है? तुम्हारा टेम्पररी स्टेटस कैसा है, तुम्हारा फिजिकल स्टेटस कैसा है. ठीक है? सो एक्सटेंडिंग ऑन दोज लाइन्स, और रादर expanding along those lines, the estar verb has been designed. So those are there are two different AR verbs, remember, ser and estar. We'll see today how to do the conjugation of estar. Apart from that, its areas of application.
Prasad, it was a slip of tongue. Probably you said both these are ER verbs.
Yeah, ser and comer.
No, estar.
No, ser. No. Ser
Okay.
and comer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in short, whatever is temporary state, temporary phase comes under estar.
Yeah.
So you may say that even my nationality may change. Currently, I am Indian national, and maybe tomorrow I'll become national of US or UK or some other country. But that will be permanent at that time. So they consider it that way. Similarly, for married, you might be married today, or you might not be married right now, but you may get married tomorrow. But still, that is still a longish period. It's not that right now at this moment, on a day-to-day basis, it is changing. So something which changes on a day-to-day basis or moment to moment will fall under estar.
Yeah, I would like to say many times it's a gray area in Spanish
Gray
grammar.
area,
It's a
yeah.
gray area. I have tried to give rules about it. I have tried to formulate as many rules as possible for it. But remember, a Spanish native person can creatively use it to convey something else. Okay. For example, at the end of this PPT, I'll tell you 3 core words which a Spanish person wants to convey or communicate. When he says the word, uses the word estar. Now, for example, I'll tell you. You have learned about physical characteristics. I have told you about gordo and delgado. Gordo means fat and delgado means thin or slim. Okay. Now, you have said about some people also, the people whom you described. You have said es delgado, es delgada. Well, that's true. He's slim. But for example, in literature, I have many times come across such things. Like, for example, a mother says to her children, who, because of famine, they look very debilitated. So she said, está delgado. Está delgado means you look, uh, how should I say?
Thin.
You look very weak. You look very weak. Not thin or slim, but impoverished, or how should I say? You look with malnutrition, something like that. You look like malnourished or something on similar lines. So they say me like that. For example, one more example, uh, a peak, a mountain peak. You guys, it's a the inherent characteristic of that particular peak may be S alto. For example, I am saying about Gauri Shankar or Everest, S alto. It is tall indeed. But for example, I'm traveling by train. I see some mountain peaks outside the window. Then I may say Esta alto means यहाँ try to understand one thing. जो कहने वाला है उसको क्या कहने का है ये he conveys it through esta. That is important. Don't try to correct him. अरे यार शेर का वर्ब है तुम estar क्यों यूज कर रहे हो ऐसा नहीं है. He wants to say it looks tall. It looks tall when seen from a moving train outside the window. It seems tall. So that is the crux of it. Okay. Many times, this is the commentary I'm making. As I said earlier, one foreign language will differ from another in organizing the reality. Now, how they organize the reality, whether through an adjective, proper adjective, precise adjective, or whether through a verb, is the peculiarity of that particular language. For example, I'll say, everybody understands Hindi, I think.
Prasad, share the screen and then talk, please, so that people see something on the screen as well.
I've shared it.
No, cannot see. It's just your folder that we are seeing.
Okay. Now, can you see?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, what was I saying?
No, go ahead. Show the screen. Let them see some slides and then talk.
Yeah, I was saying about pagal and pagala. You have heard about the words pagal and pagala. Pagal means a lunatic. Pagla means crazy. In English also there are two shades, mad and crazy. And then in Marathi, those who understand Marathi, Veda and Vedpat. So those are shades which are clarified through a particular adjective, usage of a particular adjective. There is a subtle difference in shades of the meaning. These subtle shades of meaning are used. For example, saying crazy and saying mad, saying pagal, saying pagala, or saying Veda, saying Vedpat. Now, Spaniards don't use a precise adjective for that, but they make a change in the verb. For example, they will say the word for pagal is loco. Loco means, now for example, if they use it with s loco, it would mean veda hai, pagal hai. But if they use it with esta loco, yani ki he's crazy, pagla hai, pagal hai and pagla hai. So this shade of meaning is expressed not through precise usage of the adjective, but through verb change. So this is what I want to convey. And this entirely depends. Now, we are not experts, and at this stage, you cannot take the liberty of saying ser or estar as per your convenience, because your knowledge at this stage is infantile, frankly speaking. So it will take you some time. But when a foreigner says, when a native person says that, then he intends to say something different. Okay. Now we'll start it. Estar means to be, irregular verb.
Prasad, you'll have to start sharing again, because there are a lot of yellow lines drawn on your screen.
Yeah. I wonder why it's
okay. Now better. Gone.
Estar is the verb. Now the conjugation is estoy, estas, esta, estamos, estáis, and están. Those are the conjugated forms. First person singular estoy, second person singular estas, third person singular esta. I ask como estas. That estas comes through you, through this part. Como tú estás? How do you do? And you answer estoy bien. Actually, you can take the liberty of just saying bien, muy bien, regular, así así. But behind that is the verb estoy, and this is what is the purpose of estar. Estoy, estas, esta. Then first person plural estamos. Then comes estáis, and then comes están. So these are the verb forms. Today we won't be doing exercises on estar. I'll first of all explain you what estar is all about. Okay. Next one. Estar is used to describe position of an object, location of a place. Location of a place means, for example, if you are going out, you are visiting a city, then how to go to a particular tourist spot, or location of a person or a living being. Too many things, but remember, to indicate position and to locate something. In short, you can say like that. Now, first thing is position of an object. Position of an object means under, between, out, close to, in, inside, above, behind, on, in front of. We just have to learn about the Spanish counterparts of these words. Then location of a place. When you have to find out a particular location, then he will tell you something using estar. So you will be able to locate a place using estar. So this is the kind of scenario you may come across. There are some establishments like barber shop, sports center, shopping center, and you will be directed towards that using estar. Then location of a person. Location of a person, just like an object, a person can be anywhere. For example, he may be in a hotel, airport, office, bank, in a tapas bar, in a factory, in a tourist office. So location of a person. Then we use, how do we indicate position or location? That is a generic question, a language neutral question. So to indicate position or location, we use prepositions and adverbs of place together called as locators. Okay. Now the difference between prepositions and adverbs of place, there are subtle differences. Usually with prepositions, nouns always follow. Forget that altogether. We'll club together prepositions and adverbs of place together called as locators. So locators show position of an object, person, or a living being with respect to some other place, object, person, living being, or a landmark. This is important. You have to show there is no such thing as absolute position or absolute location of anything. You have to show that with respect to some other place, object, person, living being, or a landmark. Now the examples of prepositions are on, above, in, over, under, behind. So when you want to indicate position of an object, you will use two things. You will use either a preposition or an adverb of place, and together with that, you will use the word estar. For example, locators in Spanish, delante de, detrás de. Now from these pictures, you can very well make out delante de means in front of, detrás de means behind, cerca de means near, lejos de means far away from, debajo de under, encima de. I have given you the meanings of all these words. Dentro de means inside, al lado de means to the side of, entre means between. So these are the locators. Okay. So examples of locators in Spanish. Can someone please read? Can someone please read?
Ninad, are you there?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please read.
Cerca de, lejos de.
Please read the meaning also. Please read the meaning also.
Okay. Cerca de, near. Lejos de, far away from. Arriba, upwards.
Upwards.
Arriba, upwards.
Okay, next one, please.
You mean the next person, is it Prasad?
Yeah. Next.
Prachi.
Yeah. Abajo downwards. A la derecha to the right. A la izquierda to the left.
Okay.
Izquierda.
A la izquierda. For example, I'll tell you, está cerca de mi casa. Esta means third person singular. I may be referring to something. For example, la escuela, the school. La escuela, the school, está cerca de mi casa. It's near my home. Okay. So I can stretch it, and I can also say la escuela está lejos de mi oficina. The school is far away from my office. Arriba, abajo. Similarly, you can do a la derecha, a la izquierda. Also, you can say the lines on similar lines. You can say the sentences. So, continúa por favor.
Yes, sir. Al final de, at the end of, delante de, in front of, detrás de, behind, aquí, here.
Aquí, here. Okay. Next ones. There are.
Yes, sir. On.
N.
That is, sorry. In or on. Al lado de, next to or beside. Encima de, on top of.
Okay. Next three. Okay. The next participant will read the next three entries.
Pratiksha.
Yes. Debajo de, below. En medio de, in the middle of. Dentro de, inside. Fuera, outside. Entre.
Wait. Next person, please. Prerana.
Yes, sir. Fuera, outside. Entre, between. Enfrente de, in front of.
Okay. Next participant. Last entry.
Yes, sir. Al otro lado de, to the other side of.
Okay. Now.
Continue here, then later on, Sanjana, when it comes.
Next area of usage of estar is to indicate physical status. Like for example, you say estoy bien, estoy mal, estoy regular, estoy así asti, estoy estupendamente, I'm feeling great. Okay, like that, estar is used. Okay, so please read the next two entries.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Bien, good. Mal, bad. Regular, okay.
Okay. Next is Seshadri.
Así. So. Estupendamente. Great. Elegante. Smart. Elegant.
Yeah. Sonali.
Yes. despierto or despierta, which is awake.
Yeah, a girl
Ric-
or a boy. Despierto pertains to a boy. Despierta pertains to a girl.
Rico, rica, delicious. Muerto, dead.
Yeah. Now, Rico Rica you have also come across in Ser. Rico means rich. But
Rich,
he
yeah.
is rich when you say, and when está rico, then it being it. For example, soup है. Soup अच्छा बन गया है. Literal translation करने का तो it has become delicious. Something on similar lines. So whenever you come across the intention of the speaker, when the intention of the speaker is on the lines of look, feel, and become. These are the core words. These are the core words. Look, feel, and become. So whenever he wants to intend these, he wants to communicate this feeling, look, feel, and become, then you use estar. That is the rule. Okay. So just because Rico means rich, that doesn't mean you should use ser. If you use está rico, for example, la sopa. Sopa means soup. La sopa está rica means soup अच्छा बन गया है, delicious बन गया है. So look, feel and become. इसमें जो become है, that comes in picture. Okay. So next entries.
After Sonali, it will be Vikram.
Yeah. Cansado, cansada, tired.
Yeah.
Enfermo, enferma, ill.
Uh,
Con gripe,
Con gripe.
with flu.
Okay.
Con gripe,
Yeah.
with flu.
Now, if you look at the earlier slide, these are all physical state. This is all about physical status. Okay. This next one is also physical status. Tired है, ill है. This is not an inherent characteristic. भगवान ने बनाया तो tired करके, flu देके, dizzy करके, cold देके, asleep देके नहीं बनाया. So these are the physical stati which come in picture because of a particular situation or because of the day-to-day grinding. All these things happen. Okay. Next one.
Vilas.
Mareado, mareada, resfriado, resfriado, dormindo, dormioda.
Dormida.
Dormido.
Okay. Next one.
Hambriento, hambrienta, hungry. Frío, fría, cold. Reunido, reunida, reunido, reunida in a meeting.
Next one.
Ajay Patil.
Abedito, abedita.
Abierto,
open.
abierta.
Abierto.
Then
cerrada, closed.
Next slide, Prasad.
Cerrada. Okay. Next one.
Ajay, continue.
Limpido, limpida, limpio, limpia, clean.
Okay. Ashok.
Yes. Sucio, dirty. Gupa, smart, pretty.
Guapo.
Guapo, smart, pretty. Medio, dormidio. Dormidia.
Okay.
Half dormida. Half asleep.
Okay.
It's not medio, it's medio.
Medio, yes, medio.
Yeah. Okay, Jitendra.
Sí, sir. Perezoso. Perezosa, sluggish. Caliente, hot. Ocupado. Ocupada.
Okay.
Busy.
Yeah. I'll tell you about the meanings of these words. For example, ocupado, ocupada is a busy. It is his status. Okay. Caliente, it is hot. For example, I serve you tea. Okay. While talking with teacher, you don't remember tea has been served, and it becomes cold. Okay. So te is masculine. El te. So first of all, I serve you hot tea, but it has become cold. So now I'll say está frío. Está frío. It is cold. वो ठंडा हो गया है. ठीक है. Similarly, see the entry perezoso, perezosa. Now, if I use with estar, it means sluggish. It means sluggish. For example, I had a heavy lunch, and then usually people become sluggish after that. But then I say está perezoso or estoy perezoso. I am sluggish. I had a heavy lunch today, so estoy perezoso. But if I say es perezoso or soy perezoso, that means I am lazy. Now sluggish का ही बहुत बड़ा एम्प्लीफिकेशन किया तो तुम्हें lazy person मिलेगा. But lazy is kind of nature. It is its inherent characteristic. Some external, because it is not because of some external factor that you have become lazy. By nature, by nature you are lazy, but sluggish because of heavy lunch I am sluggish. So there is one external factor because of which I am sluggish. So to indicate that some external force, because of some external force मैं sluggish हो गया हूँ, then they use estar. Estoy perezoso. I am sluggish. Medio dormido, same is the case. Now take the case of guapo and guapa. I forgot to write a, but try to understand one thing. Of course, if in case of a boy, guapo means handsome. In case of a girl, it means pretty. Apart from that, see the usage of guapo. For example, if I say es guapo, it's not wrong. Just like if I say es perezoso, okay, the third last entry. If I use es perezoso, it is not grammatically wrong. It just conveys a different meaning. Similarly, if I say es guapo, it means es guapo means he is handsome. But if I say está guapo, it means he looks handsome. Handsome नहीं होगा. कुछ तो आर्मानी का सूट वगैरह पहन के या कुछ अच्छा टाइप का अच्छे ब्रांड का गॉगल वगैरह पहन के वो दिख रहा है, हैंडसम दिख रहा है. So he looks
or photoshopped.
Yeah, Photoshop. Yeah. So because of some external agency or because of some external कुछ तो external efforts किए हैं, इसकी वजह से वो handsome दिख रहा है. Okay, for example, I'll say Madhuri Dixit is guapa and Katrina Kaif está guapa. So if I say something on similar lines, it means one looks pretty and one is pretty. So that is the difference they want to point out. Okay, because of makeup and some other things. Similarly, sucio means dirty. Okay, sucio means dirty. For example, होटल में एक टेबल है, जो टेबल तैयार किया है वो उसके मैन्युफैक्चरिंग डिटेल्स अलग है, यानी कि वो वुड का है, इट इज उसका मटेरियल इट इज मेड अप ऑफ वुड. ओके, इट इज राउंड इन शेप, इट इज रोबस्ट, इट इज स्ट्रॉन्ग, सब ठीक है. वो मैन्युफैक्चर ने उसमें दिए हुए फीचर्स है, तो उसके वो इनहरेंट कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स है, मेड अप ऑफ वुड, being round in shape, being robust. These are all manufacturer provided features. लेकिन खाते वक्त कुछ तो लेफ्ट ओवर्स वहां पे रह गए हैं, तो वो डर्टी हो गया है, इट हैज बिकम डर्टी. सो आई से एस्ता, जो भी कुछ वर्ड होगा टेबल का, तो एस्ता सुसियो और एस्ता सुसिया जो होगा वो अकॉर्डिंगली इट वुड कन्वे द मीनिंग वो डर्टी हो गया है. Okay, la mesa, for example, mesa means table. La mesa está sucia means table dirty हो गया है. They want to convey that meaning. बन गया है, ठीक है. Limpio, clean, limpia, clean, similar things. Cerrado, cerrada. For example, take case of a door. Now, जो door किया है वो rectangular in shape है, 6 फीट हाइट का है, 2.5 फीट उसकी कुछ विड्थ वगैरह होगी, तो वो मैन्युफैक्चर डिटेल्स है. लेकिन वो बंद रहना या खुला रहना, सेर्रादो या अबियर्तो, ये जो चीज है वो उसका स्टेटस है, ठीक है, सेरादो और अबियर्तो ये उसका स्टेटस है, ये कुछ मैन्युफैक्चरर ने ओपन डोर या क्लोज डोर नहीं दिया हुआ. So that is the case. Then for example, frio fria I already explained. Estare unido. Okay, I'll explain through. I have already prepared some examples of it. I'll pass on that supplement to you. Hambriento hambrienta. मुझे भूख लग गई है. मैं I am hungry. So that is also your physical status. That is not your inherent nature. Hungry रहना कुछ inherent nature नहीं है. Dormido, asleep, that too is the same thing. Mareado, come to the next entry. Mareado dizzy. I am feeling dizzy. I said just like I said, look, feel and become. I am feeling dizzy. So estoy mareado. I am feeling dizzy. Está mareada. She is feeling dizzy. Similarly, estoy con gripe. I am having flu. Estoy enfermo. Estoy enferma. I am ill. Now this is a status, your status. All those excuses which help you not to go to work, these are all excuses arising from physical status and they all come from estar. Similar is the case with cansado, cansada, tired. Okay, I'll revisit this. Then muerto, rico, despierto, awake. These are all your physical stati, elegante, stupendamente, all those things. Okay, so remember that is the difference, and they express through verb, not through precise usage of adjective. So that is the basic theme behind that. Similarly, some person, कोई आदमी by nature cool हो सकता है, kind हो सकता है, cruel हो सकता है, by nature I am saying. लेकिन emotions and moods are very different from nature. Emotions and moods are very different from the basic nature of a person. That usually cannot be modified. जो उसका basic nature है वो कोई modify usually नहीं कर सकता. Okay? लेकिन emotions and moods होते हैं, these are all passing qualities. Okay? These are transient things. Just like physical status अपने body के लिए होता है, वैसा ही ये physical status mind का रहता है. Those are called emotions and moods. So we'll cover the emotions and moods. Just check whether these moods are there. Preoccupy and these are the moods, and you have to use estar. Keep that in mind. Who's the next one? Can someone read, please?
After I think it was Sanjana who was left halfway through. So Sanjana, maybe you can read the first three.
Yes, sir. Preocupado, preocupada, worried. Asustado, asustada, frightened. Enamorado, enamorada,
Enamorado de.
enamorado de, enamorada de, in love of.
Okay.
Next one.
Next one is Sheshadri.
Aburrido, aburrida, bored, alegre, jolly, cheerful, triste, sad.
Yeah, that's it. Then Vikram, Sonali, sorry.
Yeah. Triste, sad.
No, after that.
Arta de,
Okay.
fed up of. De mal humor,
Humor.
Yeah.
in bad mood.
Yeah. Next participants will form a sentence with the particular adjective.
But later complete this. There is one more. Sonali, can you not see the last word? If you are on phone.
Enojado,
Okay.
which is, or enojada, which is angry.
How will you say I am angry? The verb conjugation.
Soy.
No. Estar. We are dealing with estar. Angry is a mood, not a nature. Okay. So estoy, estás, está, estamos, estáis, están. Estoy means I.
Estoy.
Estoy
enojada.
Yeah, perfecto. This is how I want. For example, you can how will you say he is in a bad mood? He is in bad mood. Estoy, estás, está. How will you say he is in bad mood?
Está de mal humor.
Yeah, está de mal humor.
Yeah.
Está de mal humor. For example, I can say está triste. she is sad or he is sad. Okay, I'll go to the next one. Okay, here I have provided some sentences, and these these things perhaps may visualize, help you visualize. So then I have given you some particular examples. Estoy nervioso, estás contento, está enfadado. These are all adjectives. Keep that in mind, and you can change as per the gender. For example, a girl will say estoy nerviosa, a boy will say nervioso. Estás contento, contento means happy. Estás contenta, that too is possible. Está enfadado, just like she covered just now. Estamos aburridos. Now, since adjectives are there and they qualify the noun which they provide additional information about the noun, we are bored. So bored या adjective जो है वो we का है, तो we plural है, इसलिए aburrido भी plural हो जाएगा. Estamos aburridos. Estáis tristes. Triste जो word है उसका plural हो जाएगा. Estáis tristes. And están cansados, they are tired. Okay, they है वो third person plural है, उसका वो adjective है, tired, sad, bored, angry, happy, nervous. All these are adjectives, and adjectives always match the noun in gender and in singular plural aspect. Okay, so that's why están cansados, estáis tristes, estamos aburridos, and estoy means one single person. First three are singulars. So estoy nervioso, estás contento, está enfadado. Okay, next few entries. Can you
Vikram?
Yeah. Contento, contenta, happy. Enfadado, enfadada, enfadada, angry.
Okay.
Deprimido, deprimida, depressed.
Okay. Vilas?
Debuin Umar in good mood.
Umor.
Sorry. Debuin Umor in good mood. Celoso, jealous. Celosa, jealous.
Yeah, that was about the verb estar. I think Prasad, shall we stop here?
Yeah. It's 8:30 almost. Yeah.
Starting a new topic.
Will you please share all these today?
Yeah. I'll send this PPT as well as the earlier PPT which we covered today, and I'll also provide the solutions of the questions in the file which we covered last time, as well as the